Standing. Security Dossier, securing the perimeter. 15th of January every year has been set aside as the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebrations, commemorating the sacrifices of our fallen heroes who laid down their lives and those on the front lines in different theaters of operations, battling for the peace, unity, and sovereignty of the nation. The day also honors veterans of the World War I and II, as well as the Nigerian Civil War. Being a former British colony, Remembrance Day was formally celebrated on the 11th of November as Poppy Day in honor of the end of the First World War. Upon government's victory against the Biafran troops on the 15th of January 1970, the holiday was moved off the Commonwealth calendar and was changed to 15th of January in commemoration of the conclusion of the Nigerian Civil War that sought to tear apart the unity of Nigeria. What is in stock for the families they left behind? How are the soldiers battling insurgency on the front lines being catered for? And how has the military been able to to keep the territorial integrity of the nation intact after the Civil War? These and more will be our focus on Security Dossier today. Welcome to Television Nigerian. My name is Lawrence Audu. The program continues after this short break.
Is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NightComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road.
Welcome back to Security Dossier on Television Nigerian. It is 51 years now since the end of the Nigerian Civil War and the introduction of the 3 R's, reconstruction, reconciliation, and rehabilitation, to heal the nation from the pain of the war. Since then, Nigeria has continued to battle various forms of insecurity and other violent crimes threatening the sovereignty, especially in this insurgency in the northeast and banditry in the northwest and central states, including economic sabotage in the Niger Delta. With me in the studio today are 2 gentlemen to discuss on the Armed Forces Remembrance Day and other sundry issues. I have on my far right Mr. Charles Ibe. Welcome to Security Dossier.
Thank you very much for having me.
And in the middle here, we have a public affairs stroke security analyst, Mr. Sonny Ako. Welcome to Security Dossier.
Thank you for having me.
I need to remind you that we're going to be having a call we'll be speaking on the line to the former Army spokesman, Brigadier General S.K. Usman, retired, who is a veteran, a member of the Nigerian Legion, and he's going to be giving us, sharing his views on the importance of today. But before we get to him, I'll quickly ask you this question. Mr. Charles, I'll start with you. Today is Armed Forces Remembrance Day. What is the significance of this event?
Well, like you did say in the intro, you described what Armed Forces Day is, a day that we remember our fallen heroes, young men, women, who laid down their lives in service of Nigeria to make sure Nigeria remains what it is right now. And you know, it started from the Civil War, like you said, and that Civil War was fought to ensure that Nigeria remains one united entity. So those people that laid down their lives to achieve that very, very lofty ideal, it's a worthy cause that there is always a day marked out to celebrate them, to remember them. And also those who are still actively in service and those who have retired. They've all played one role or the other to ensure that Nigeria remained one. So to me, it's a very, very significant day. As long as Nigeria is concerned, for every Nigerian anywhere in the world, it's a day to pause and reflect that this name that we so much revere, some people fought for it. Had it been they didn't do that fight, maybe we wouldn't have been having Nigeria today. It would have been something else. But due to their sacrifices, to their efforts, we are what we are today. So it's a very, very significant day. And it's worthy of celebration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles. Mr. Sonny, what will be your take on the significance?
Well, I would agree entirely with him. We are, because people are out there, trying to make sure we are secured. That's why we are even here in the first place. We've seen incidences of very violent crimes and the potentials for even more of such crimes to happen, in Nigeria most recently. But then, because we have very gallant, men who are dedicated, to their job roles in the Nigerian military services, we can go about our normal lives. People can go to the markets, and if not for COVID-19, life would go on in most of the parts of the country. And it's just in a few areas we have issues where the military are up against insurgents and other people. So we are, mainly because these people are out there doing their work. If they are not there, I'm very sure we will not even be having this kind of program.
Anyway, just in case, I want to like to remind you that today the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Muhammadu Buhari, including other service chiefs and top government functionaries, laid wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier today in Abuja at the National Arcade. I'll request the studio to please give us a rundown of that, some visuals from there, while we await to connect with General Usman, who is also standing by.
Buhari, Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic. His Excellency, the President, is laying wreath here at the National Remembrance Arcade to honor the unknown soldier, to honor those who are currently in the front line, to honor those who are taking part in ensuring that peace is maintained across our nation, to honor those who made it possible for us to gather here today. Next to lay wreath is the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Professor
Nigerian.
Thank you very much for having me on your program.
General Usman, sir, what is the significance of the celebration today?
The significance is there is so much in the sense that if you look at the role of the armed forces in any given nation or society, they play a significant role in the defense and security issues of the country. It is the only institution that willingly vow to, lay down their lives for the betterment of the society. And for the nation and the citizenry to recognize that fact and honor both those serving and those that are retired, I think is something. And one other important thing is that it sends a signal that the heroes or those who have paid the supreme price have not, died in vain. And it will encourage people who are interested in military service to know that indeed it is a noble profession, that whatever you're doing on behalf of the society appreciates you.
Thank you very much, General Usman. I'd like to take you on this again. What is the body language of the Nigerian government towards the welfare of the families of the fallen heroes, and as well as the men and women serving on the front lines in various operations in Nigeria?
Although I did not get the first part of the question, if you can repeat it, I will really appreciate it.
Okay, General, I'm asking, what is the body language of the Nigerian government towards the welfare of the families of the fallen heroes, as well as those still serving in all the theaters of operation in the country?
I think you have to be realistic. Body language, I think, is a political terminology. And in military, I think people prefer to know the obvious and the truth. It is a fact that, our troops are deployed all over the country, fighting the Boko Haram terrorists. Thankfully, in fact, it is the remnants of these terrorists now, and there are other security challenges they are contending with, which ordinarily should be the preserve of other security agencies. But that notwithstanding, I think the government is appreciative of the fact that they are making these sacrifices, and they are doing the little they can to ensure that the welfare of the troops and their families is being looked into. Well, one thing that is needed is to expedite action on these reforms that will enhance the well-being of both the serving and their families. And the reality of the ground is that things were not the way they are. Therefore, there is need for improvement in that. So it's not issue of body language, but it's issue of concrete steps being taken. And I know the government is doing the best it could, and the services are doing the best they could, particularly the Nigerian Army, which I have the privilege of being the spokesman for about 4 years and having served over 35 years. So I know that a lot is being done, and more will be done to, enhance that. So it's not issue of body language, but concrete steps to be taken to ensure the welfare of the serving troops, as well as those the families of those fallen heroes that were left behind. And I know there are scholarships, and now I think the Army has come up with a new housing program that they will no longer be stranded. We have had unfortunate incidents in some parts of the countries where, retired colleagues were ejected by state government. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukuru Subrata, had to personally intervene, use his own resources to ensure that warrant officer that served meritoriously does not become a destitute.
Well, General, I must commend you for doing justice to those points raised. But before I let you go, sir, in spite of these reforms in the armed forces and all the welfare packages that are, of course, obvious, are you still not concerned about agitation, secessionist agitations, and some form of insurrections in some quarters? What is responsible for all this, and how can we surmount them?
Well, three questions at the same time. Every reasonable human being in Nigeria should be concerned with any security, issue, more so secessionist agitation, and sometimes violently too. And if you look at the history of this country, we fought a civil war, between 1967 to 1970, all in a bid to keep the country united. We give kudos and credit to the armed forces of Nigeria for making sure that this country remain united, by fighting the civil war. And issues that are responsible for it, I would have loved that you should be very, very specific. If it is the one by IPO, for instance, I know that
it's one of them, sir.
It's been masterminded by somebody who does not even have affinity with Nigeria, and somebody I once described that whoever is following his trend is more or less like entering one chance bus. He's not being realistic. He's just taking undue advantage of gullible people, especially the youth from the southeastern part of the country. And it is rather unfortunate because the agitations are unfounded. This is a democratic system, and there is, judicial remedies to whatever you want to have in the country. So people should take advantage of it and make sure that they do not antagonize anybody, in realizing or they are realizing their self-aspirations. Now, coming to, first and foremost, we should distinguish between criminality and genuine agitation, because researches are ongoing. We can understand that there are kind of communication gap in some among various components of Nigerian societies, and we have to encourage that. We have to go back to those value systems. We have to strengthen institutions. We have to improve in our governance to ensure that there is good governance. Dividends of democracy get down to the grassroots. Gradually, we are even eroding the functions of the local government, which is supposed to be the proper, so that some of these issues cannot be lumped on the state or the federal government entities that could have been resolved locally. So we need to go back to the basis to ensure that we improve in the delivery of, the dividends of democracy in terms of good work, governance, rule of law, strengthening institutions. So there are so much things to be done to ensure that some of these issues do not crop, because Nigerians have not been given proper sense of belonging, and they have not been sufficiently educated and enlightened on some of their responsibilities and privileges and rights, that they tend to feel neglected and they think that there is no authority. And to the extent that we have security situations that sometimes overwhelm some of the security agencies and the military is called upon. This is an aberration. We should allow the military to be concerned with the defense of the territorial integrity of this country. Issues that are mundane, we should, allow security agencies, encourage and support them so that they can perform their duties optimally. But beyond that, again, there are other socio-economic issues that need to be addressed. There are so many, even though so much is being done, there are so many government intervention programs. So, but people should exercise patience and restraint and understand that every Nigerian feels the pain and the pain, and it is a collective responsibility. There is no way a society will progress if it is not peaceful. It will not progress if it is not united. We have seen it in various parts of the country, world. Therefore, there is need for us to have sense of belonging, to understand that we cannot progress if we don't cooperate fully with the security agencies and other government agencies as well among Nigerians. We should be our brothers' keepers so that we avoid all this violence and all, things that are inimical to the well-being of the society.
Well, General Eskes, I must thank you so very much for coming on the program today.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure, and I wish to take advantage of this opportunity to thank you for doing a marvelous job, in Nigerian, and also to, wish Nigerians, particularly members of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, happy Armed Forces Day celebration, and we continue to pray for the souls of our, departed heroes. Thank you very much.
God bless you, General.
You're welcome.
That was General Usman Sani Kukasheka Usman, former Director of Army Public Relations, a Brigadier General retired, doing justice to our discussions today. Well, gentlemen,
Yeah.
you've heard from a retired veteran and someone who has lots of information as regards the issue at stake. Mr. Charles, how do you react to some of the salient points that he raised?
Yeah, in fact, he gave us so much. He gave us so much. He asked for little, and we received more than we asked for. In terms of information, he has been in the trenches. He has gone. He has seen there. He has gone there. He has seen it. He has done, and he has retired. So he is in a position to shed light on much of what people need to know about the Nigerian army, especially about the welfare. When you asked the questions about welfare of the Nigerian, the families of the fallen heroes, and also some retired, when he mentioned, some of them before now used to be kicked out of the barracks and they don't have anywhere to retire to, which is a very, very, very sad situation. But from the information he gave us, the government is doing something about it. The current military leadership is doing something to tackle that situation. And also mentioned something about strengthening institutions that will also help everything, not just the army, the polity, the Nigerian system. Because the army is still part of the system, because security is in the heart of everything. So if we have strong institutions from governance, he also talked about where he talked about the local government.
Yes.
Yes, you understand. So strengthening institutions that will make sure what our constitution stands for. That men and women who are willing to uphold the tenets of the Nigerianness, the unity that the military fought to uphold. So it's not just about every day we'll come and celebrate the military. It's also about making sure we keep up to what they fought to protect.
Yes.
And that is also why many of them are still fighting, because people that are supposed to do what they are to do are not doing it. Lapses are created, and then the military are now called in. He also mentioned about calling military in to do some things that they are not really supposed to do, because the people that are supposed to do it are overwhelmed or cannot. You understand? So
they failed in their own
failed to doing it, and then the military has to fall back on the military to come in. So it is a day for Nigerians, irrespective of whatever, whether you're a military man or you're not a military man. Security is key. So if we do what we're supposed to do, wherever we find ourselves, especially people in authority, strengthening our institutions so that things will work out well and everybody will have a chance to play their own part.
Mr. Ako, while reacting to General Usman's statement here, does a day like this evoke any form of nostalgia to you?
Well, I think it does. It does, especially when you've been around in the country for a while. We're not too old, but at least we remember, the 80s and the early 90s, yes, when the Armed Forces Remembrance Day used to be, marked even more, with more pomp and pageantry than it is done today, and with much more solemnity across the country. We think back, my brain, this morning, I was, trying to replay one of the popular jingles, in the late 1980s, about the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. And, the wearing of the poppy used to be even more popular in those days than recently. So those evocations are still there. People still, want to reach out and show solidarity with the Nigerian military and the men of the service who have died. But I was telling someone this morning that more needs to be done in creating awareness. It's the awareness. When citizens are more aware, when the general was speaking, he also talked about, creating awareness so that people know what the roles of the army, the Air Force, Navy is separated from those of the civil police. But if you ask me, in my opinion, I think that even more Nigerians, especially the younger generation today, that solemnity of the day, or the spirit of wanting to relate to what the military personnel who have died have gone through is more born out of people's experiences, people who have lost loved ones directly, people who have lost friends, family members, you know, even more than what the army has done in, you know, creating publicity about the day. You know, most recently, you know, the death of what's her name now, the Arotile flight lieutenant or flight officer Arotile, the female combat helicopter pilot that died. You know, the incidents, the unfortunate incidents with Lieutenant Colonel Abu Ali. You know, incidents like this have, you know, drawn the fact that they were in the news and, you know, made so much headlines. You know, seems to, you know, create that awareness about the activities of the military in Nigeria. And so Nigerians ordinarily want to relate with it. But for the military, there's still, and for government too, there's still a lot that needs to be done in, you know, drawing Nigeria, the support of everyday ordinary Nigerians too, you know. Just this morning, somebody also drew my attention to, you know, it was on Twitter. Of course, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day in Nigeria trended for a while this morning on Nigerian Twitter. But remarkably was the absence of any tweets or activities on the Twitter handle of the Nigerian Army headquarters. You know, the last post there as of this morning was still about 5 days ago, if I'm not wrong. You know, so if the Army's, you know, Twitter handle is not even talking about the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, it shows that a lot still needs to be done. Of course, I also checked out the defense headquarters. There was some activities. You know, there was a touching video about our fallen heroes that was there. You know, they tried to put out some activities. But for the Army itself, I think a lot needs to be done. Of course, the president was at the arcade this morning to release some pigeons and lay wreath. I thought that was very good. Most recently, we haven't seen the president out carrying out any physical activities outside of the villa. But for, you know, him to, you know, come out today and lay the wreath and release those pigeons shows how important today is even to the presidency as an institution.
Mr. Charles, it is 51 years now. You want to add something to that?
No.
Okay. It's 51 years since the Nigerian Civil War. And there's been this issue of reconstruction, reconciliation, and rehabilitation that was introduced by the government of General Yakubu Gowon to reintegrate people and heal the pains of war. How far so far? Do you think the Nigerian military has been, you know, up to its constitutional responsibility in that regard so far, in bringing Nigerians together and uniting people?
Yeah, I think when you look at the activities of the military, especially when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to bringing in more people into the force, you find out that they, more than any other institution, try to follow the state let-down rules about federal character to ensure that all parts of the country are integrated together. You understand? When the lists are always released, and you find out that the quotas given to each state are filled up by people who are exactly from that region. And so it is not a question of people still being feel like they are conquered, they are divided, they are being marginalized, they are not brought into the army, to the armed forces. And also when you look at, you go to the southeast, you go to the southwest, you see military men from the north. You go to the north, you see military men from the south. You understand? So this passes that message of unity.
The national balance.
Yeah, creating that national balance. So I think within the military, I think the 3 R's. I don't think there's any issue about the 3 R's: reconstruction or rehabilitation or bringing people together to ensure that unity. And outside the military, it might exist, which is giving rise to some of the agitations that you mentioned earlier about people trying to secede and all of that. But I don't think that problem is in the military, because the military is one very revered institution that everyone knows they keep to standards. They are, especially Nigerian military, internationally, they've been acclaimed. So I don't think there's a problem in that regard.
You have been, brought up in the military way right from, growing up with a parent that was a service personnel, attending military schools. How do you react to this?
Well, I'll tell you that, before now, very unfortunately, when we talk these days in Nigeria, we tend to refer to the past, where things were kind of better than now, Talking about integration, I attended a military secondary school, a school run by the Nigerian Army, the command schools across the country. In those days, my secondary school where I attended is based in Jos, but I could tell you then that 70% of the population of students came from Lagos. In fact, our PTA meeting used to be done in Lagos. The chairman of the PTA was in Lagos, but the school, is in Jos. So when we resumed those days, before the Lagos people would come, before they go to bring them with the school bus from the airport or from those that come through the motor parks, the school will be very, very scanty until when the Lagos crowd comes in. So it was just a clear
Lagos
example.
is almost like a cosmopolitan
place. So we had people from all over the country. The secondary school was the opportunity for me. Of course, I had my own stint with the barracks, living in the barracks, before then. But then the school was an opportunity to even meet a broader, array of persons from across the country. So the army did all of this deliberately, and there were, arrangements to ensure that children from the rank and file, got admission into these schools. And these schools were, performing top notch in that era.
Sure.
During my own days, we had children of governors, ministers, and all of that. In my class alone, when I was in SS3, we had at least 2 military administrators and at least 2 ministers in my own arm, in my own class.
Studying here.
Studying,
which is one thing that's going to be something for another day.
Yeah, but if you go back there now and look at how the school is faring, it leaves a lot to be desired, people now, the population now is more from people who live around the states where the schools are situated.
Okay, but the schools have been decentralized more so.
Yes.
But I also know that the current chief of army staff has consistently, held, discussions and, exchanged with the command school management, so command is now, almost decentralized and then in various parts of the country. Don't you think, of course, even as it's decentralized, you have students, coming from different. The admission is central, but you can go to any part of it. So does that mean that the standard is still there, or the deliberate steps being taken by the current army leadership? Don't you think it's an attempt to return back to status quo, what used to be, what you enjoyed before things went?
I agree with that. It's an attempt, and that attempt is just born out of the fact that there's a lot for them to do with these military schools. There's a lot to do. Ordinarily, I can tell you that no governor or minister want to take their kids there anymore. I can beat my chest and tell you. Even the Nigerian military school in Zaria used to be much more coveted in those days than now. It was more competitive than now. Of course, we know the reasons for all of this. National income has shrunk over time, and the Nigerian army has been overwhelmed by other issues, especially the Boko Haram insurgency, which has led for them to focus more of their budget on other issues than to look at the Nigerian Army Education Corps. But talking about reintegration and the 3 R's we're talking about, the schools are very strategic in this regard because they tend to teach the younger generation the military way of life and the way of work of the military, and at the same time integrate people from various parts of the country. So there's still that very important need for government, of course through the army, to set aside the necessary funds to bring these schools back to their lost glory and see how better things could be achieved for the young people through all of this.
Yeah, because let me also add that the importance of education in this, during the kind of, when you're talking about Nigerianness, I don't think there's any category of people that can be more Nigerian or more country-oriented than the military. You know, their respect for flag, their respect for anthem, their respect for those things that are Nigerian. You understand? So they, as far as they have their command schools, they can't just be teaching every other thing and neglect that. So when you have a crop of future leaders who come up with that noble ideology that Nigeria has to be protected, the oneness, everything that it stands for has to be respected and protected, it goes a long way. Because it's not all of those children that will end up military men.
Yeah, of course.
Some will become teachers, some will become doctors.
And once the training that has
been
in
there,
makes them, different,
yeah,
more disciplined than others.
Exactly, they take it across.
And talking about welfare for children and families of the fallen soldiers, the army, what stops them from starting a program where you provide admission for the children of in this category to go to these schools, and as you are doing that, you're also ensuring that the standard of this school doesn't go down, so that they are not just going to get wishy-washy education just because they've lost their parents, but they are also getting access to world-class educational opportunities in these schools. So the call is still very much there for the Nigerian Army to look at these educational institutions that they own and run as a very veritable tool for training Nigerians to be disciplined and to be dedicated to and patriotic to country.
We have been discussing with Mr. Charles Ibe and another public affairs analyst, Sonny Ako, on the role of the military in protecting the sovereignty of Nigeria and then uniting the people on this special occasion of the Armed Forces Day Remembrance celebration in 2021. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get to the concluding part of the program. But while we go on that break, I'll request the studio to play that video on a tribute to our lost heroes. We'll be right back.
Sit there.
Welcome back from that break where you watched that chilling video, very solemn, remembering those who have died recently, especially in the northeast part of the country, where they have been fighting to protect the integrity of Nigeria. Gentlemen, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
While the video was going on, we're talking. What sense do you make of the whole thing?
I mean, that video particularly, brings out. It's emotional. It brings us more closer to the essence of the day of what the Armed Forces Remembrance Day is. And I was looking at that, see young, good-looking, promising, gallant men who are people's children, people's sons, people's husbands, and brothers, cousins, and all of that. I mean, it's so evocative, and it draws the whole matter of the need for us to come to a conclusion with this whole Boko Haram matter. There should be a timeline to put a total end to this.